Welcome back to the channel. Today's story will sit inside your chest like a small drum, quiet at first, but it will start to beat. They called him Ibuka, but his stepfather never called him anything sweet. In that house, his name sounded like a warning. That boy. This thing. Your son. But never our son. Never Ibuka. His mother, tired and bent from life, would force smiles into mornings. She was the only bridge between Ibuka and peace. Without her voice softening the air, the house felt like borrowed land. The kind where you sweep but still walk on edge. His stepfather, Mr. Chuka, was not a shouting man. That would have been easier. Instead, his silence scraped deeper. When he looked at Ibuka, his eyes never stayed long, like Ibuka was a shadow that followed them both too closely. He wouldn't beat him, no. But he'd give all the juicy meat to his own son and leave Ibuka with bones. Not once had he said, "Well done." Even when Ibuka fetched water from the borehole during Harmattan or mended the fallen fence, Mr. Chuka would walk past like the wind did it. The only place Ibuka smiled freely was in school. There, his teacher, Miss Ada, always said, "Your handwriting is like rain, neat, soft, needed." Sometimes, he would stay back just to write his name over and over again. Not because he loved spelling, but because he loved seeing proof that he existed. At home, even laughter cost him something. One time he giggled at a funny cartoon, and Mr. Chuka snapped, "Why are you shouting like a goat?" From that day, Ibuka began to laugh with his teeth, but not his voice. And yet, something was shifting. Quietly. Like how you don't notice the water's warmth until you're deep in it. Because one day, something happened that made Mr. Chuka stop. Look. And for the first time, actually see. But we'll get there. Slowly. The sun didn't rise early in that house, it peaked. Like even the morning was afraid to disturb Mr. Chuka. That morning, Ibuka swept the compound as usual. The broom in his hand had more life than the voices around him. His little brother, Chuka's only son, was sitting on the step, eating hot akara with bread thick like sponge. The smell floated around Ibuka like mockery. "Mummy, can I have some too?" Ibuka asked softly, eyes on the food. Mama blinked. "Go and eat the yam I left for you. You know he doesn't like sharing." Ibuka nodded, walked away, and smiled small. The yam was dry and tired, but it was quiet. And quiet food doesn't insult you. That day, after chores, he ran to school without looking back. School was his breathing place. There, he could stretch his thoughts without being shrunk. Miss Ada met him at the door with her usual half-smile. "My writer," she said, patting his shoulder. "Today, we're writing essays about someone we admire." The class buzzed. Names flew, celebrities, uncles, rich neighbors. Ibuka sat, pen in hand, eyes on the blank page. Then he wrote, "I admire my mother. Because even when her eyes look tired, they still find me." Miss Ada read it and froze. Her eyes scanned it twice. Then she folded the paper like a secret and said, "Come with me." They walked into the staff room. She spoke quietly to a tall man with graying hair. The man bent and read the essay too. His eyes softened, but his lips tightened. By the time Ibuka went home that day, something had happened in school, but he didn't know it yet. At home, the evening meal was already causing tension. Chuka's son had fried eggs and bread. Ibuka had plain beans and a spoon that bent in the middle. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked his mother. She looked at him, eyes full but lips dry. "No, my son. Life is just a little unfair sometimes." But outside their gate, a shoe stepped into their sand quietly. The man from the staff room was walking toward the house. The knock came softly, 3 times like it had manners. Mr. Chuka opened the gate halfway, chest puffed like he was expecting to send someone away. But the man standing outside didn't flinch. "I'm from Ibuka's school," he said, holding the folded essay in his left hand. "We need to talk." Talk. In that house, talking wasn't free. Every word cost someone something. Still, Mr. Chuka stepped aside slowly. He didn't like strangers, but the man's voice had something strong but respectful in it. They sat under the mango tree in the compound. The teacher unfolded the essay and read aloud. Not loudly. Not fast. Just enough for the words to enter. "I admire my mother. Because even when her eyes look tired, they still find me." Something about the silence after the reading made the mango leaves stop rustling. Even the flies paused midair. The man folded the paper again. "You have a brilliant boy, sir. But he's carrying something heavy. I thought you should know." Mr. Chuka scratched his arm, then his ear, then looked away. "He's not my son," he said sharply. "I figured," the teacher replied calmly. "But he lives here. That means he belongs to someone." No fight broke out. No voices rose. But something in the air changed shape. Inside the house, Ibuka was pretending to do homework. He was actually tracing lines on the edge of his book. He wasn't sure why he felt nervous, but his chest wouldn't sit still. Mama came in with a tray. "Eat," she said gently. "Tomorrow is still waiting." He nodded, spooning the beans slowly, but his ear was by the window. Trying to catch a whisper, a word, anything. When the teacher finally left, he gave Ibuka a small smile at the door. The kind of smile grown men rarely give to children unless something deep has been exchanged. Mr. Chuka didn't say anything. Just locked the gate and walked inside like his legs weren't fully his. Later that night, Ibuka found a surprise on his table, a boiled egg beside his beans. He blinked. Then looked around. Mama didn't do it. And Chuka's son was still eating meat. Sohu. Morning didn't rush in that day, it tiptoed. Even the roosters seemed unsure if they should crow loud. Ibuka sat on the edge of his mat, staring at the small boiled egg he'd wrapped in nylon and hidden under his pillow. He hadn't eaten it. Not because he wasn't hungry, but because he wanted to believe it wasn't a mistake. At breakfast, nobody mentioned the egg. Chuka's son slurped tea with bread soaked too long. Mama was quiet. Mr. Chuka flipped through an old newspaper like the world inside it mattered more than the one in front of him. "Let me escort you today," Mr. Chuka said suddenly. Ibuka's spoon paused midair. Everyone else did too. The road to school was short but full of questions. Mr. Chuka didn't say much. Just walked beside the boy, hands in pockets, like a man looking for something he lost years ago. "You like school?" he finally asked. Ibuka nodded, unsure if it was a trap. "Yes, sir." When they reached the school gate, he didn't follow him in. Just placed one hand gently on Ibuka's shoulder. "Do well." That was all. But it was more than anything he'd ever said. Inside class, Miss Ada noticed the boy's eyes glowing, not from sleep or hunger, but something else. Maybe hope. But peace doesn't last long in some houses. That evening, Chuka's son broke a cup while playing. Without thinking, Mr. Chuka shouted, "Ibuka! Come and clean this." Mama froze. Ibuka came slowly, broom in hand. But as he bent to sweep, something strange happened. Mr. Chuka stopped him. "Leave it. He broke it, he will clean it." Even the lizards on the wall turned to stare. Chuka's son looked confused. Mama blinked twice. And Ibuka, he stood there holding the broom like it was no longer his. That night, the gate stayed open a little longer than usual. The wind slipped in freely. The moon sat full and fat in the sky, smiling like it knew a secret. And inside, for the first time, Ibuka laughed. Not with his teeth, but with his chest. Something had shifted in the house, like furniture moved just slightly. Enough to notice, but not enough to explain. Ibuka didn't get extra meat. No one threw confetti. But Mr. Chuka's eyes now stayed a second longer. He still didn't smile, but his voice no longer felt like a slap. Even his hem sounded less sharp. One Saturday morning, the compound was buzzing with chores. Buckets lined up near the tap, slippers slapped the ground, and children's voices floated through the air. Mama was frying plantain. The smell danced into the sky. Ibuka scrubbed the veranda. Sweat clung to his small back, but he didn't mind. He liked the sound of work, it made silence less heavy. Then came the visitor. A slim man in a checked shirt walked in, dragging a red bag behind him. His eyes scanned the compound until they landed on Ibuka. "Ah, you look just like your father," he said. Everything paused. Mr. Chuka stepped out from the backyard, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked at the man, then at Ibuka, then at Mama. "Who is this one again?" he asked, not angrily, just tired. The man smiled, wide and careless. "I'm Ibuka's uncle. My name is Emeka. From his real father's side. I just came back from Kaduna." Mama's eyes flickered. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Emeka dropped the red bag. "He left some things behind before he passed. I kept them. Thought it was time the boy had them." Mr. Chuka stood there, jaw set. Not talking. Not blinking. Ibuka didn't know what to do. Should he hug the man? Should he ask questions? Should he run? Inside the bag were photos. A small wristwatch. A brown envelope. He held the wristwatch. It didn't tick anymore, but it still felt alive. "This was his favorite," the man said. Mr. Chuka walked away. Later that evening, Ibuka found the brown envelope beside his pillow. He didn't open it yet. Not because he wasn't curious, but because his hands were shaking. Outside, Mr. Chuka sat under the mango tree. Alone. Looking like someone who had just remembered something important, but too late. The brown envelope sat on the table like it had its own heartbeat. Ibuka stared at it through dinner, through chores, even through nightfall. When the house grew quiet and the last kerosene lantern blinked, he finally opened it. Inside were old letters, faded but neat. His father's handwriting was gentle, like someone who thought deeply before speaking. There were photos too. One of a man holding baby Ibuka, both of them smiling like the world didn't know how to hurt yet. But what caught his eye was a letter addressed to "the men raising my son." His heart jumped. He held it up to the lantern. It read, "I may not be around to raise him, but I pray you love him like your own. Protect him. Correct him. But don't forget, he's still a child. And even the strongest trees bend when the wind blows too hard. His mother is kind. She'll hold things together. But one day, he'll need more than just food and shelter. He'll need someone to say, 'You matter.' If you can do that, I'll rest easy, even in the ground." The ink blurred as tears filled Ibuka's eyes. He wasn't sure if they were his or from the letter. The next morning, he left the letter on Mr. Chuka's table without a word. He went to school early, heart pounding like a talking drum. At home, Mr. Chuka saw the letter. He didn't call anyone. Just sat down, read it, and kept reading. Then sat still, holding the paper like it could vanish if he moved too fast. He walked out, found Mama in the kitchen, and whispered, "Why didn't you show me this before?" Mama sighed. "I thought you didn't want anything to do with his past." "I didn't," he said quietly. "But I didn't know his past was begging me for help." That evening, for the first time, Mr. Chuka knocked on Ibuka's door before entering. He came in, sat on the floor, and said, "Your father wrote me a letter." Ibuka looked up slowly. "I read it." Silence. "I didn't know how to be your father," he added, voice low. "But I want to try now." No response. Just breath. And quiet. But this time, the quiet wasn't heavy, it was healing. From that day, things didn't become perfect. But they became different. Mr. Chuka didn't wake up as a new man. He still cleared his throat too loud. Still forgot birthdays. Still didn't say sorry the way people say it in movies. But he began to try in his own quiet, stubborn way. He started with small things. Like calling Ibuka by name. Not that boy. Like asking, have you eaten? Even if the food wasn't special. Like saying well done when Ibuka returned from fetching water, even though the water was warm and late. Ibuka didn't know how to react. At first, he thought maybe it was a dream. Then he thought maybe it was guilt. Then, slowly, he stopped thinking. He just watched. And waited. One Sunday morning, Mama made jollof rice. The smell spread like good gossip. She dished 3 plates. 1 big, 2 small. Usually, the big one went to Chuka's son. But that day, she handed it to Mr. Chuka and said, share it the way you want. Mr. Chuka blinked. Then looked at both boys. You both helped with the cooking. They nodded. Good. He took 1 spoon, divided the meat evenly, and smiled, awkward, crooked, unsure. Fair is fair. The room was too quiet for a Sunday. Chuka's son looked surprised. Ibuka looked confused. But he smiled. Not because of the meat, but because of the moment. Later that week, rain poured suddenly. Clothes soaked. Buckets overflowed. Ibuka ran outside to rescue his books from the line. He slipped. Before his elbow could kiss the ground, a hand grabbed him. Mr. Chuka. The man pulled him up roughly, checked his knees, and hissed through his teeth. You won break head because of book. Ibuka laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the voice wasn't angry. It was worried. That night, Ibuka sat near the window, the one that leaked when rain fell too hard. He watched Mr. Chuka adjusting the curtain rod and mumbling to himself. And then, as if remembering something, the man turned and asked, do you still have that watch your uncle gave you? Ibuka nodded. Good. Bring it tomorrow. Let's see if we can make it work again. The next day was bright but gentle. The kind of day where even the sun seemed to walk, not run. Ibuka placed the old wristwatch on the table. It looked tired, dusty, stiff, but still proud. Mr. Chuka adjusted his reading glasses and brought out a small toolbox. Let's see if your father's time can still move. They sat quietly under the mango tree, tools between them, words hanging gently like clothes on a line. The watch had a loose pin. Nothing serious. Just a tiny piece that had been missing. Kind of like Ibuka himself. After a while, the watch ticked. The sound was soft, almost shy. But it was alive. Ibuka grinned. It's working. Mr. Chuka smiled too, barely, but it reached his eyes. Just needed patience. The moment didn't last forever, but it lasted enough. From then on, weekends had a new rhythm. They fixed things together. Broken chairs. Leaking buckets. Once, even a transistor radio. They didn't talk much, but their silences grew comfortable, like 2 people who had stopped expecting pain from each other. One Saturday, Mama watched them from the kitchen, shaking her head with a smile she didn't hide. I didn't think I'd ever see this, she said. Ibuka laughed. Me neither. But peace has its own enemies. One afternoon, Chuka's son stormed into the house, face squeezed. Why are you always with Ibuka now? You don't fix my toys again. Mr. Chuka looked at him, not angry, just firm. Because he needs me now. And maybe I need him too. The boy frowned. But I'm your real son. Mr. Chuka paused. Then said something he had never said before. Blood is not the only way to love. Sometimes, you choose family. The house went quiet. Not tense. Just thoughtful. That night, Ibuka couldn't sleep. Not because he was scared, but because he was full. He held the ticking watch close to his ear and whispered, "Thank you, Papa. It's starting to work." Somewhere outside, a breeze carried the message into the trees. The house had never felt this full, yet nothing new had been bought. No new chairs. No new TV. Just laughter, small, uncertain, but honest. Ibuka no longer tiptoed around. His feet touched the floor like they belonged. His voice didn't shrink when he answered. He didn't have to wait to be spoken to. One morning, while folding laundry, Mr. Chuka did something strange. He held up one of Ibuka's worn-out shirts and asked, "This one still fits?" Ibuka nodded. "Good. If it tears again, bring it. We'll patch it together." That word again, together. That evening, Mama brought out a photo album. Dust danced off the cover like old memories waking up. They sat in the living room. Chuka's son on one side, Ibuka on the other, Mr. Chuka in the middle like a bridge rebuilt. They flipped through pages, Mama's wedding, baby pictures, birthdays. Then came a blank space. "Why's this page empty?" Chuka's son asked. Mama smiled. "We stopped taking pictures for a while." "Let's take one now," Ibuka said, only half joking. Nobody laughed. Instead, Mr. Chuka stood up, went into the room, and came back with an old camera. "Let's do it." They stood near the gate. The same gate where silence used to wait. Neighbors peeked through their windows. Children passing slowed down. Click. The photo was taken. After the flash, Mr. Chuka placed his arm around Ibuka's shoulder. He didn't remove it quickly. "I was wrong," he whispered. "I didn't hate you. I hated what you reminded me of, things I wasn't ready for." Ibuka didn't reply. He just leaned into the arm, like someone finally allowed to rest. Inside, Mama wiped her eyes with the edge of her wrapper. "It's just the wind," she said, though nobody asked. That night, they hung the photo on the wall. Right where the blank space used to be. Ibuka stared at it for a long time. Not at himself, but at the arm around his shoulder. Something had ended. But something better had begun. Time didn't rush after that day. It folded softly like cloth, settling into new patterns. Ibuka woke up without fear. He laughed loud enough to fill the room. He felt like he belonged, not just in the house, but in the story of his life. Mr. Chuka was still the same man with the deep voice and serious eyes. But now, those eyes held something new, pride. One evening, while sitting under the mango tree, Mr. Chuka looked at Ibuka and said, "Come here, son." Ibuka froze. The word was strange and warm at once. "I've never said this before," Mr. Chuka continued, "but I am proud of you. Not because you're my blood, but because you are you." Ibuka's smile broke wide. The kind of smile that spreads like morning light. Mama joined them, hands tired but heart full. "We're family," she said simply. "Not because of blood, but because of love." That night, Ibuka held the old wristwatch close. It ticked steadily, like the beat of a heart learning to trust. Outside, the stars blinked knowingly. The night carried no more shadows for Ibuka, only promises. And in that small Nigerian home, a stepfather stopped hating and started loving. Because sometimes, the strongest roots grow where the heart chooses to plant them.